There we go.
There you go.
So everybody's done watching the video. Once everyone's kind of done, give a thumbs up in the camera there, and then we'll kind of actually get kicked off. Huzzah! I see a lot of thumbs up and one person with a beer, so that's also good. All right, so before we get started, let me introduce myself and my fellow instructor for today. My name is Tim. My Amtgard name is Count Saint Sai. I am from Wolvenfang. Know a little bit about me and why I'm qualified to instruct other people on role-playing and quest writing and everything like that. My questing foundation comes from a very long line at this point. I have been running quests since basically my 6th month in Amtgard. I have ascended the path through quest writing and quest tutorials and things like that, and become recognized overall as a high-end quest master for many people. I've even received my Master Smith because of my quest writing in majority, and then ultimately became a Flame Knight. And I associate most of that with running events, running quests, and teaching other people. On top of that, the reason why I find these instruction seminars so beneficial is because I actually also teach at the college. So I have a background in instruction as well as quest writing, which makes it very beneficial to do an instruction in this fashion. I kind of am very capable of teaching things in different manners, because obviously not everyone's going to learn the exact same way. So I'm going to teach you how I do things, which is a little unorthodox, but I'll also show you other ways in which you can go about it, in which other people have done it as well. In my 10-year staple within Amtgard, I have run several Questmaster seminars in universities to try and teach people and encourage people how to write them. Several of my proteges, if you will, have become quite prominent themselves. For example, Finola here, who is joining us as an instructor this time, is somebody that I have worked very closely with in teaching how to write quests, as well as she has taught me quite a bit in how to write quests as well. For those who are down south, Casey is another person who I've had a very strong connection with. Funnily enough, he actually attended my very first Questmaster seminar. However, he wasn't even supposed to be part of the class. He was originally just the chauffeur for them. He showed up to the class saying, "Hey, I know I'm not supposed to be here, so I'm going to find a hotel. Where's the nearest hotel?" And I said, "Well, that's dumb. How about you just stay and learn anyways?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't really like questing, but okay." Fast forward 5 years, and he likes running quests now. So that's a lot about me. I'm going to now hand it off to Finola, who's going to be the Phase 2 instructor on storytelling and arcs.
Hi, hey everybody, I'm Finola. I'm also from Wolvenfang. I've known Tim since he was 14 and awkward and little.
One of those have ended.
Only one, though. I've been writing quests for the better part of the last 8 years. Not quite as long as Tim, but close. I didn't really get into it until about 5 years ago, and then I decided to jump in with both feet and write. I've now at this point 3 Empire-wide story arcs or park-wide story arcs that were at least 6 quests long. The reason I'm good at long arcs is I am a writer. I do a lot of writing in my spare time. I started doing that when I was about 10 years old. So the idea of doing the long arcs really appeals to me as someone who likes novels. I also have a teaching background, though not for adults. I teach little guys, and so sometimes my quests come off a little strange.
That's true. On the upside, sometimes it's nice to have just kind of very light-hearted quests as well with an Amtgard. Let me get comfortable here. So, just to get everyone kind of breakdown of what you can expect out of this class and the way we're going to kind of move forward, I'm going to kind of taking up the brunt force of the first start. Son of a bitch, there's mosquitoes in my house. I'm going to take up the brunt force of kind of the how to format a quest, the analytical aspects of things, the mechanical aspect of things, and I'll touch a little bit on storyline and characters. but pretty much I'm going to give you a formula for making a quest on the spot that overall people will generally enjoy, and then you can take those basic mechanics and with the module I will give you, can expand upon them to make them customized to your own park, and how to make them longer story arcs and things like that. Steffi is then going to take over from there and kind of give you a little bit more on characters and how to develop them, antagonists, and how to keep a storyline going, not only for a local park, but also for a series of parks. For example, the Northern Empire, which both Steffi and I have the largest experience with. So there was a document that I wanted to kind of show everybody, but now I've closed it because I'm a scrub. There it is. See if there's a way that I can share this within this program. I was trying to get this working earlier, and it did not want to work. Let me see here. Jim has merit. Yay! I have merit. Oh, hang on. Maybe I can... Stand by for technical difficulties. This is the first time I'm using this software, so we're all going to kind of learn together, and hopefully this will also help out future people running this.
Still less technical difficulties than Skype.
Let's try this. Oh, it's up quite quickly. Aha! There it is all for you. Now it's in the Google Drive. So you will all find a link in the chat log now, which will bring you to a little document that I've prepared many, many times. I am not an author by any stretch of the imagination. I am absolutely terrible at the human language. In fact, most people that I know play drinking games. When I say something that I mean something else about, for example, switching words or something like that, take a drink. For those who are watching in the video later on and not participating immediately, tell me how many drinks you take throughout the end of the night. So this right here is a little module that I've written up, and I kind of keep modifying year after year with things that I've learned, and that other people have kind of shared with me. The biggest thing that I want to emphasize when I was talking about quest writing is that there is no right way. There is no wrong way to make a quest. It's all about personal interpretations and whatever your park enjoys. Each park will be unique, and each park will have their own different choices that they want to follow. 100% okay. And make sure that you begin to customize and create your quests to really get people to dig in. You require permission. How do I give you permission? Also vesting gas. Does anyone else need permission to get it? Has anyone else got it? Okay.
I also needed permission, Tim.
Yeah, I need permission too.
How do I give permission?
As do I.
All right. How do I unpermission you? My trash. You son of a beach. Let's see here. How do I
It
do-
asked if I sent a request, apparently.
So did I.
There
All
is
right, maybe there's I have to like.
I
give
think
permission.
like the left or right corner of the screen, there will be like a lock symbol, I think, of your screen. There should be like a lock symbol. Your screen with a document on it.
Hang on, let me open it up here. Open it up itself.
Or maybe it's a bell.
Sharing.
Your other option is to screen share.
That might
Yeah.
work.
I wanted to give it to
Pull up on
everybody.
your screen.
Create shareable link. All right, let me try this.
Oh shit!
Done.
I almost. Laptop won't fill there. All right, Michael.
Okay, let me try that. Done. All right, let's try this new link. Does this work? Oh, a fancy little thing pops up. Hopefully you guys can all get that now.
It is loaded for me.
Haha! All right, success. Successful. Tim is successful. All
We
right,
learned
so
a
as-
thing.
Yeah, so I just had to go, for future people trying to use this, you have to go into the settings and create a link that's shareable
Yeah, I
within
got it
your
as well.
Google Drive. So we're going to kind of follow, anyone can follow along with this document. This is what I'm going to be kind of using to give you a guide. It's also what I use to kind of begin my quest writing stories. So basically it's written down into kind of 2 categories in each section. Each section will bring you through the steps as to how to begin building a story, how to build mechanics, things like that. And there's basically 2 levels. There's the basic story, and there's kind of more advanced ones. Basic stories are things for, my park wants to have a quest today. I didn't have anything planned, but a lot of people just want to do it. Let me just pull out things from behind my trunk here, and we'll go. We'll just make something, and we'll run with it.
Oh no.
So, basic stories are things that are very simple to sink your teeth into. They can involve a situation or a villain, which is kind of stereotypical, only a 2-dimensional character, but it's very, very easy to recognize and to associate with in many ways. So, for example, things like, if your park is mostly good characters, for example, that day, oh no, there are goblins attacking our village. We must go and stop the goblins. Oh, they've actually destroyed the bridge, so we can't get to the outskirts of the village. So now we have to fix the bridge first and then go out and get them. Those situations are very easy to kind of lock into and understand, and they don't require much forethought. There's goblins. I gotta go kill them. Let's go. You can also pick generic archetypes. For example, evil wizard, insane wizard, lich. These are all things that people can very easily associate with again, and then move forward into your actual quest. The biggest thing I can say about quests is that there always has to be a goal in the long run. There has to be a reason why people want to participate in this quest, as a character's point of view. The biggest thing that I cannot emphasize enough is that not all characters are good. There are characters out there who are bad people. Like in the real world, there are characters out there who generally just are out for themselves and not for the betterment of mankind. That's okay. You should really expect that as a quest writer and a quest master, and understand that going forward. So you have to have a reason to still entice other people to join in as well. Good character, oh, there's an evil wizard, let me go kill them. Evil character, there's an evil wizard, what's in it for me? These can easily be overcome with things such as gold rewards, quest items, mini artifacts or relics, specifically for your quest line, to progress things forward. So, for example, if a villain finds out that they can perhaps receive a special bracelet that gives them ancestral armor, 2 points ancestral armor on their entire body, one time and during any one of your quests, well, that might be enough for somebody to move forward and actually try and perpetuate it, and try and complete your storyline. But it also requires a physical attribute to give to them. There's absolutely nothing worse in a quest than be going, congratulations for killing the dragon. You now receive a dragon's hoard of 20 million gold coins. Can I make gold coins? Oh, no, just pretend you have them. It's very anticlimactic. It's usually a lot easier if you have a couple of small gems. Poker chips you painted gold, things from the dollar store, gems from the dollar store, the little candy foiled chocolates you give away. Those are all things that, congratulations, you just slayed this dragon, you find his hoard, here's some chocolate. Even though it's not a full representation of the amount of gold they may have earned, that's still enough to satisfy that desire to actually get something out of the quest. So if you're going to give something away, make sure there's something to give away at the end as the actual reward. Those are for the more basic quests, the things that are going to be like a one-shot scenario. Evil Lich in a tower, break in the doors, kill all the things in the way. Now I'm at the lich, kill him. Here's my wand that I got that has a, I don't know, a stun in it. Some of those rewards, when we get to more advanced stories, can be a little more esoteric or temporary. For example, pacts with factions or things like that, where a character will use those tiny advantages going further. Stephanie will talk a little bit more about advanced story writing and the basic story writing, so I'm going to kind of continue past this. But again, the parts I want to emphasize the most is, one, have a villain or a situation which everyone can relate to in some form or fashion. Two, there needs to be a reason. There has to be a goal. There has to be an objective at the end of all this. Money, items, or if your park is a super, super goody two-shoe park, for the betterment of mankind. Anyone here have a park that just has people who do stuff just for the betterment of mankind? No, none of us are that lucky. Yeah. All right. So the next category, as you scroll down, is party sizes. So when you're talking about party sizes, when you're writing a quest, you're kind of making it for a specific group or size of groups. Now, I've kind of broken them out into three categories. A park, a company, or an event. And the reason why I broke them down is in part due to size and in part due to invested interest. So I'm going to kind of go through them one at a time. A park is going to, the quest for a park is going to depend on your park. It's history, it's lore. If your park does not have history or lore already to it, congratulations, you have a blank slate which you can do anything at all you want. Little did all these people know that 100 years ago, this land actually used to belong to lizardmen. And now with the recent thawing, the lizardmen are coming out again to try and overtake your park. Well, that small storyline, if it's the first time it's happened, can actually become an ongoing concept for your park. It can always be under invasion by lizardmen. They can always be coming back trying to reclaim their land. But these park-type quests are going to have a shared concept, a betterment or a interest in their own protection or their own interests. Now, the biggest thing I can say about quests is that the world should not always end, especially if it's for like a shire or a barony or a duchy. If the world ends every single week, eventually heroes go, fuck it. It's not worth it anymore. Scope is very important. Oh, sorry, I missed a question here. Why not make a reward for the determinant of mankind? So I don't understand your question, Scott.
So instead of always having the rewards being good is for the betterment of mankind and evil guys get trinkets, well, the evil guys might want to do something for the detriment of mankind, something they'd love to role play, and rather than just say, oh, the bad guys only want trinkets, you know. So think about
absolutely.
Rewards for bad guys.
Absolutely. In these styles of quests, that is for a basic story arc. For things where there's not going to have any major significance, it's a one-shot quest, is the ones that I was referring to. Even heroes, for example, they still want something out of it. Villains may still want something out of it. The small stories that I was referring to are for one-shot ordeals where I have a couple of newer players out. I want to show them how to do a quest. I have a bunch of people out who just, we're having a lot of fun today, we're going to stay a little longer, I'm going to write a quest. The basic stories are for the pop-up ones, where there's not going to be really any kind of continuing arc afterwards, so everything in that basic quest is self-contained. Steffi will actually talk a little bit more about those long-term objectives for both good characters and evil characters, where evil characters may be working behind the back of good characters towards their own desires and needs to, slip up the heroes or to gain a personal advantage of land or territory. Steffi will kind of go over those more advanced mechanics for storytelling and those hook, line, sinkers. Mine was just more a basic kind of oversight for one-shots. Here you go. Here's a one-shot quest. In and out. We're done. There's no continuation of this. Sometimes those are the stories, those one-shot deals that you don't mean to go on longer. Those are often the ones that end up lasting for years because somebody will pull out the item that you gave them 4 years ago and go like, I still have this thing which was hooked up to a mummy. I want some of that mummy now inside this necrotic field. What happens? And that's also exciting things that can happen later on the line. But Steffi will kind of, once again, more cover those kinds of things. I'm trying to just give you the basic building blocks towards a quest. So scope is very important for the park size. A shire is not going to be able to go toe-to-toe with a warring kingdom, for example. It's not realistic in most responses unless it's a long story arc where they're building up traps and forces and getting reinforcements from other areas and things like that where it's a story. But for smaller ordeals, it always has to kind of stay relevant. Mid-range, coronation, things like that, those can have more significant impacts for your park. You know, your keeps being destroyed or the crops on the outlands being torched and burned. Or even celestials beginning to come down and play havoc with the mortals of the realm. But again, those major scenarios where angelic forces, demons, things like that should be coming in occasionally and not consistently, because if the world is always going to end, people will become bored of that. The next one that I'm going to talk about is what I call a company. Companies are actually for a much smaller party or group. Companies are actually one of my favorite styles of quests to... companies are actually one of my favorite styles of quests, right? Because you can give it a very specific goal, an objective that you know they're all going to stick into. By company, I don't always mean like a fighting company. I can also mean a close group of friends. I can also mean, you know, a belted family, for example. People who are clandestine to have very similar objectives always in mind. It's not a ragtag team. These companies are groups which are pre-built, predetermined, and are designed to be the most efficient questing parties they can be. There's no random chance in these guys. They know what they're doing. They know who they are. They're here for a reason. In this style of quest, you can create a much more customized feel to it. Getting less generic and more specific. So I can give you a great example. One I have recently run. I have run a quest this past Battle of the Dens for a small group of friends of mine. For Katarina, Oskley, Finola, Decryus is also there as well. And these are all people who I know their characters a fair amount. I've been role-playing them for years and years and years. And within this quest, they actually were experiencing a time dilation where they had gone into the future, some of them knowing the whole story along the way, some of them not knowing it. I literally went up to each of them before the quest started. Here is what you know, here's what you know, here's what you know. No two of you get the same information. This style of quest is also generally a closed style quest, so it's not open to the entire public. It's specifically designed for a particular group. You use this quest when you want to further a character extremely, when you're doing it for friends or a group that you have admired or has done something that you feel kind of earned this, either through another story arc that they've kind of progressed this way or through other means. In the quest that I'm referring to, I ran for a small group of people. I knew each of them so intimately and so well that I literally made the entire group cry as they had to give service to a character they had been knowing for years. And you can see Steffi nodding to this. And I don't mean like they were like, oh yeah, no, legitimately in full emotional tears. Because when you know players that intimately and when you become that experienced, you know everyone's boundaries that you can get to. Yeah, absolutely, Courtney. You can give these quests specifically to certain people, and it gives them major character progression, and that will launch them further into making their own quests, encouraging other people, or taking on new personal roles within Amtgard as a whole. And as Courtney said, you can also use these type of quests, these company-style quests, as a fundraiser. I have done it many, many times myself when I want to make a little bit extra money for an event. In general, most of these quests go for $40 or $50 depending on the size of the group you want in. Usually I don't recommend for a company-style quest any more than 10 PCs. Otherwise it starts to get too large and too unruly for the intimacy you're trying to establish in this style. But I have actually auctioned off a quest for 7 people, which ended up going at BotD for over $200. It was a huge bidding war, but these are additional tools on top of creating scenarios for your own park to further their enjoyment of Amtgard in general. You can also use these skills you gain to further your park financially to create even better events, because now you have more resources to make those events even better. So that's company. The last style is by far the most complicated, stressful, and complex style questing, and it's an event quest. The reason why event quests are so much more difficult is because they require to be designed for a wide range of people. You're no longer sharing interests from a single park. You're no longer sharing common goals from a company. You must now design a quest which is going to be enticed by heroes, villains, monsters, characters of neutral descent. I have literally seen people begin quests at large events and go, here we are, we're defending the kingdom of Goldenvale, for example. We're going to barge down this opposing kingdom's doors, and we're going to fight for kingdom of Goldenvale. Huzzah! And I've seen PCs go, can I join the NPC team? I wouldn't fight for Goldenvale in general. I tried to assassinate the king last time. Probably not a good idea that I show my face with him. Kind of wanted man. I've also seen people at the start of quests when that happens, turn around and walk away. And you never want to have that happen. So there always has to be some kind of larger goal again. So this is kind of where we're going back to that end game goal of having something wide enough that everyone will be interested in it. Knowing that there are treasures inside, magic to be learned, and as a quest writer, you also have to design the quest for multiple personalities. So you can have multiple factions, some good aligned, some evil aligned, some chaotically aligned, in which no matter what character you're portraying, there is a vested interest for you to go forward and put your own life at risk to try and complete this, or hamper this, for example. And the one thing in these event-style quests that you can never discount is PvP. It is going to happen. Accept it. Embrace it. Design your quests around that concept that people will fight each other. If you want to minimize that, give them something to hit. Give them a common enemy to attack. If your PCs all line up and it's supposed to be, yeah, we're just gathering up here, I want you guys to go in this woods, and then all of a sudden as you're giving the story, orcs start charging and start hacking everybody to pieces because they're just rampaging through. No, whether or not I'm a good character or bad character, I'm kind of miffed at these orcs who have just rampaged through, or I want to know what's going on. There's a little bit of intrigue and mystery there. So if I'm a good character, why do these orcs attack me? Are they infected in any way? Are they maddening? Can I help them? If I'm evil, perhaps I become their leader. Perhaps I can use these orcs to my advantage. Perhaps they have resources or magic that most orcs wouldn't have. Why? How do I get this to my side, to my advantage? How do I turn the orcs against my enemies? There always has to be something to kind of pull people in. The other thing I'll say about event-style quests, or you can just kill them all. Most Fae will say just kill them all. The other thing I can say about event quests is they have to be stupidly simple. For an event quest to be successful, you should literally be able to give you an update on how the quest is going for everybody in about 10 minutes. In about 1 minute. Somebody asks me, okay, I know I just killed the dragon. What do I need to do next? Well, I heard the dwarves acquire the dragon skin at the center area again to try and complete the battle tank or whatever you're doing specifically. But it needs to be that simple that anyone walking by can get a quick 1 minute update, be back in the quest, know what they're supposed to do, know what's going on, and know how to progress forward. In large event style quests, if it is a very complicated theme, if it is a very high-end storyline where one character is trying to manipulate a character who is trying to sleep with another character, when that's going on, only maybe 10 PCs out of your 100 that are experiencing your quest are going to receive those details. 90% of the other PCs will be completely lost and have no idea what the heck is going on. In theater, which is the thing that I teach, there is a term, suspension of disbelief. It is when a person is watching a story or watching a play, and they do not realize that they are watching a play. They are completely emotionally invested inside of what they are seeing. In quests, I view it the exact same way. The moment your PC goes, wait, how does this mechanic work again? You've lost them. They've stepped away. Either because they don't understand what's going on anymore, and they don't know how to progress, they get frustrated. Those are all things that are notorious for killing quests. Event-style quests, cannot emphasize this enough, needs to be stupidly simple. I have 8 items out there in these 8 different areas. Bring those 8 items to me so we can banish this demon, or we can break down this keep, or we can rid the orcs of our land. That literally needs to be the entire premise of the quest for it to be moving forward successfully. Like I said, there are always exceptions to every rules, but in general, once you're talking 60 to 80 PCs, and I know not everyone's going to experience that level of event-style PCing, you need to make sure that there's a wide enough range for everybody to stay invested in it. I'm going to take this time. Does anyone have any questions about anything we have kind of talked about so far, whether in regards to the basic storylines or group party sizes? Anyone have any kind of questions on how you break those down and how you use those? No, no, no. A lot of blank faces. Blank faces are good faces. Okay. Literally what I'm giving you guys is block by block by block. Using this system, you'll be able to put a quest together and very easily make any kind of quest you want. So, quest types. There are basically 5 styles of quests out there. Each one is used for a different style of group. And if you actually look at the page, you'll see inside of it there's guided, Dropbox, free range, whodunits, and time-dependent quests. Underneath each one of these categories, you're going to see a recommended group size. So 1 to 10 PCs, for example, for a guided quest, or smaller parks. Dropbox, anybody can do a Dropbox. You can use it for events, whatever. Very, very simple. Free range for parks or events. Whodunits for a company or smaller events again. Or time dependence. Companies or events. So within each of these, I give kind of a generic overview. We're going to kind of blow through this part as well because you'll all pick up on this quite easily. A guided quest is something very simple. This is designed for smaller groups. This is designed for smaller groups or for companies. So within a guided quest, you are literally walking the PCs from point A to point B to point C. The reason you are doing this is because it is that small, super close, you're describing every detail, emotions, their feelings. Not only are they experiencing fighting monsters, but they may also experience sudden pressures upon their chests as they're entering a new tomb, or as they begin to descend further inside of the earth, or they walk through a temporal distortion, or a portal to another dimension, and you're completely nauseated. You're giving additional details, and you're literally walking beside them, giving them that blue text at the bottom of Final Fantasy. you experience blah 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 blah. Because there's no practical way in Amtgard for you to make somebody feel pressure on their chest without risking killing them. Which, if you've got a hardcore enough group, go for it. I have literally had PCs that I know very, very comfortably, and I've known them for literally years, where when they need to feel nauseous or something like that, I will take, late at night, I'll take a sparkly orb and go, and that will disorient them a little bit. I only do this when I know A, they're not epileptic in any form or fashion, or B, that they can handle it. Within every single one of these quests, make sure safety is always your primary concern. Always, always, always. With guided quests, you can create that very custom feel to them. The only downside to them is that they're very restrictive. PCs like to have options. In guided quests, you have literally removed all their options to go in any other direction except for forward in this one way. So it has to be a reason why. Examples of why they could be doing this? Railroading, absolutely. This is a railroad quest. There can be paths that they choose, or they can be different ways they go, but the reason why they are railroaded has to be evident. So, for example, in a company, I am a Sherpa. I have hired you adventurers here today to guide me along my path to get to the top of the mountain. Okay, well now there's a reason why I can only go one way. I have to stay with the Sherpa because he hired me. Reason number 2. You are now exploring an ancient tomb. There is literally one corridor with rooms inside underneath. Well, you can't really go any way you want because literally it's walls to walls, so you have to go straight through the path. Some people hate these style of quests if they're too large and you don't give enough explanations behind why they're like this. But certain style and groups love this style of quest, specifically when it's a role-play-driven quest or a character-driven quest. The story of the one I was telling you before, with that small group of people who had made them all literally cry, that was a guided quest. They were walking from point A to point B. The reason why they were doing that is that each stop they felt something new pulling them in that direction, new sense of urgency. The spirits were talking to them. It was a reason to go forward and not just kind of go whichever they want. Dropbox quest. That's the next style we'll talk about. Dropbox quest is very, very simple. We've all played this one before. Hi, I'm an ancient blacksmith. To slay the dragon that stands before you, you must now bring me mithril, gold from the deep dwelling mines, and dragon's fire. Bring me these 3 things, I shall forge you the sword, and then we can kill the dragon. Who has done one of these quests? Pretty much everyone here. They are the most basic. It's a scavenger quest. I call them Dropbox quests because literally you go item 1, item 2, item 3. What's my problem? Let's see. There is a demon who's luring children out into the wilderness. Well, now we need to make a flute. Let's go get item A. Let's go item B. Let's go get item C. What can I use for these items? Let's see what's in my trunk. I have rope. I have a tube. And I have a marker. These are the 3 items you need. Huzzah! Dropped into quest. Successful quest. Very, very easy to use. They work great for small parks. They work great for even for event-style quests as well. Obviously, event-style quests, there need to be a little bit more to them overall. Like the challenges must be a little more extenuating. These Dropbox quests also usually has the 3 aspects of Amtgard. Role-playing, a combat, and a puzzle. You have to do these 3 things, you get the items, make it together, kill the big boss, quest over. Dropbox quests, easiest quest to pull out. If you're just kind of pulling one out of nowhere, use this one. Super fun. Free-range quests are very, very similar to Dropbox quests. With only a couple differences. The biggest difference with the free range is that you're basically making it a little more complicated. So you're offering things like side quests. You're offering things like innkeepers, smith, or shops, things like that. And it's not just go to A, bring it back. It's, well, you get to A, and then, sorry, your princess is in another castle. First you need to do this for me. For example, oh, I'm glad you just got here. You need to go get me the mithril? Well, unfortunately, my tunnel just collapsed. to get into the tunnel, I need to go get the dynamite. The dynamite is a little further away inside my old shack. Unfortunately, that is all overrun by goblins. Shucks, it's never that easy, is it? So those are the style things. You're just kind of giving additional chains. You just got to be careful about how far those chains extend. Because if you go from, I need to blow open this mine to get the mithril, to I'm sacrificing a sheep to a demon, there's a disconnect somewhere. And you don't remember how you got to trying to sacrifice a sheep to a demon. So why do I need to sacrifice? Right, I need to do that so that I can get the farmer to give me the key to the house to get into the dynamite so I can get the mithril. Yeah, exactly. It was going, what? And I have seen quests that go that far. In one logical progression, it makes sense, but it's one of those, that escalated quickly. Wow. So those are the free range quests. Those are pretty self-explanatory, very similar to the Dropbox quests. Just extend them out, stretch them out, give them options for additional factions, for example, shopkeepers, innkeepers, things like that. Whodunits. Whodunits are a lot of fun under the right circumstances. These are very, very specific style quests. They're usually better for special events like feasts or courts or late night in a hall kind of thing, like GE or Fury, for example. Everyone's played Clue. Somebody's died. They cannot be resurrected. They cannot be talked to dead. That's just part of the game behind it. There are people in the room that were all there at the same time. They all have a motive. Your job is to get the clues from each one of them, eliminate the ones that didn't do it, and find the real killer. The way these work the best is basically you have until the end of Feast to put in your vote. Each team, so a company, family, or even each person, gets to make a guess. Each person who guessed right gets put in a little draw. You draw the person who guessed right out of the box. They get a little prize. Yeah, and like I said, all these quests here, Jay makes a good point. All these quests here can be mixed and matched in different ways. You could have a whodunit in a Dropbox quest. You could have a part of a Dropbox quest be guided, for example. You know, to get that mithril, well, now you have to go into the cave, and now you have to fight the goblins to get to the mithril source. You can mix and match these things, which is kind of the point behind this. This is literally just a block that I give to you. You go, I'll put this on here and this on here, and haha, quest. Okay, time-dependent quests. Time-dependent quests are by far the most complicated ones to run, but they are also the best ones overall for large quests. And the reason why they are the best ones for large quests is because there is a definite end time. At 4 o'clock, 2 hours after this quest begins, that's it. The bad guys are here. You have to fight them with whatever you got. The way that Dropbox quest, or sorry, time-dependent quest works is basically things are changing all around you all the time. PCs are aware of what's happening, and there's a logical progression as to why. So, for example, I'm going to use a brush fire, for example. This quest here is taking place in the woods, where there's a brush fire coming towards our duchy or barony, for example. Inside the brush fire is hundreds of fire elementals. We don't know why they're here. They are on a direct march towards us. We need to go. We need to rescue as many people as we can. We need to try and earn as much resources as we can, or try and make peace with them before they get here. In this quest, basically, the fire line starts here, and it begins to move forward. Each 15 minutes, a new objective is destroyed. So basically, they need to go to the furthest one first, find the water nymphs that are there, make friends with them, get them to come back to the town with them. Then they need to go to the farm and free all the animals, for example. And if they don't complete these within the 15-minute or 20-minute times, well, the fire wave burns them all to hell. And now you're out of opportunities. Time-dependent quests require, again, a reason why you're on this timeline. The first time I ever used one of these, I created a quest called called the Dragonflight quest. So I've got people messaging me right now who I think wants. Okay, I'm good. Nobody wants to join. They just want to talk to me in general. And just like inside any style quest, there has to be a goal. There has to be a logical progression as to why things are disappearing. Yeah, like Botties, one night they did this. They do it with Steffi. Actually, did it a couple of years ago. Was it last year or the year before? I think you're muted, Steffi.
There we go.
There you go.
3 years ago now, I did an Advancing Army quest. And I just pulled it up, actually, and was seeing if I could share it, but I cannot figure out how to do that right now, so I'll figure it out later. But basically, each general had his own time frame. And I had a great big chart when I was designing the quest, and you could see where the progressions were happening at which time. And so each general of each section had, at this time, this happens, and then the next person moves on.
I left the group call here for a second. I don't know how to teach him this. Give me 1 second here. As Steffi was talking, I was just trying to add some stuff. Upload.
Yeah, so because of the way the time quest worked, and it was armies going to a specific point, the PCs had a chance to whittle down the armies before they got to the right point. And if they failed that, any one section, the general from that section was stronger. So it didn't mean necessarily that when the timer hit 0, they were screwed. It just meant when the timer hit 0, they were in trouble. There was an additional mechanic on this where the generals were summoning something bigger, and the PCs were trying to stop that. They had literally 32 seconds left on the clock when they defeated the last general.
So I have just linked a couple of extra documents. I don't know if you guys will get access to them. I'll make sure you guys can get access to them before we're all kind of done here today. I've just linked the documents that I used for the Dragonfly quest, and you'll see there is, yeah, I'll have to give us permission towards the end of this. But you'll see there is a lot of paperwork here. And when it comes to event quests, you really have to have tons and tons of paperwork, because you cannot be everywhere, you cannot account for things. So you literally need to give every PC that's going to be any role a piece of paper saying, this is your role, this is what you know, these are your abilities, have fun. There really is nothing worse than being a PC and being told, okay, you're a goblin over here, bye. You know, hate to be that dramatic actor, but, you know, what's my motivation? Why am I here? Am I hostile towards PC? Am I friendly towards PC? Am I goblin that flings poo? Like, what am I doing? Yeah, exactly. So these are things that are very important for you to kind of make sure PCs know, especially in larger quests. I will get you guys shared. I will show you guys that information later on. I closed my document somehow. Am I even a goblin? Is this the real world? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide? Yeah, lots
As an
and lots
additional
of fun.
side note, when you're making a big quest like that, choose your NPCs wisely. Choose people you trust.
It's actually funny. That's exactly where we're going to go. It's a great segue into the next section. Before I get any further, because the quest styles are very important in the basic building blocks which you choose from. So does anybody have any questions about different quest styles or anything else? Seeing a lot more shaking heads this time, which is better than just blank stares. So we're progressing, guys. We're getting there. The next section you'll see is NPCs and monsters. So the biggest thing towards a great quest is figuring out the strengths of every single player. There are players who exceed at different skill levels much better than other players. And as a quest master, it's important that you recognize those facts. For example, Steffi, I would trust her as a Reeve for her confidence, for her role play, for her casting. Probably not going to put her as the big bad dragon that everyone has to go kill at the very, very end, because she can't really fight that well. Good fighter, not exactly a boss level fighter though, and that's something very important to recognize and to keep in the back of your mind when you're picking your NPCs. So in this department, I've kind of broken things down into 5 categories. Fighting, very, very simple. Their ability to hold their stick. There are role players who are absolutely fantastic at fighting and still being a good role player. There are people who are good at fighting and casting, but they may not be a good role player. So those are people you might use as secondary generals or as minions in boss fights, things like that, who mechanically can pose a great challenge to the PCs, but who the PCs don't need to interact with overly so they don't need that in-depth of a character. They're just a zombie or a wizard or a mindless follower. Casting is exact same level as fighting, specifically towards magic rules, ranges, things like that. Roleplay. Now, roleplay is, funny enough, your bread and butter when it comes to creating a roleplay scenario. I'll let that sink in for a moment. Kind of a big deal. Roleplay is not just a person's ability to personify a character, but also create a story that may not have previously existed. So, for example, if I tell you, you are a dwarf, you have lived in these lands for hundreds of years, your people come from here. This is your family's mine. Recently they have come by, they've destroyed it, you can't get back in because all of your pickaxes are inside the mine. You are determined as hell, so you're going to start picking the rocks out by hand. That's a great amount of level for an NPC to kind of get their bases out of. I know what I need to do, I know why I'm here, I know some basic storyline. Well, if there's 2 dwarves there, there's a good chance they've known each other. So for the PCs to kind of bite into this quest, for them to become interested and invested in these characters, why should I help you? Because I'm a good guy. I'll give you drinks. I'll give you things that the questmaster may not have given them in their write-up, but things that are very easy to pick up and roll with and have fun with. Role players are people who can just make a character fun. Has anyone ever experienced a NPC who they were not a critical aspect to this quest at all, but you felt like you needed to help them more than you actually cared about the rest of the story of this arc, where you would personally try and put this person's interest ahead of the rest of the quest? Does anyone have any good stories about PCs from their own park or PCs from other parks or events that they've experienced where this person has literally made a quest for you? They were the moment where you realized you loved role-playing.
I have a really quick funny story about something similar. Whenever you get randomly teleported in a quest, it's almost always bad, right? Yes. So the PCs had been in one of Tim's midnight quests, teleported randomly into a family of dwarves.
Oh, yeah.
And the dwarves are sitting around a barbecue, and we have legit hot dogs and pop and some snacks, because at this point it's 1 o'clock in the morning and we're all hungry and half of us are drunk. And one of the PCs turns to the other and goes, "Oh God, this can't be happening. Whenever we teleport randomly, it's into some kind of pit of doom or death trap." And then another one of the dwarves pipes up, "But that's the clan's name. We're the Pit of Doom." And they are now reoccurring guys that just show up in Tim's quests.
They're just dwarves who have a traveling inn, and they literally just make food for PCs who are randomly traveling by. That was one of those things that, like I mentioned, it was the smallest thing that had no significance on the quest whatsoever. I did not intend it to be a big deal. But PCs are a mist if I do not bring it into a quest.
I got one.
Okay, go ahead.
It was at the very end of a quest that we were doing last year, and Dan General was running the quest, and he had no idea what was going to happen. So one guy catches the relic that we need, and then he gets attacked, and so he throws it behind him. It's caught by another guy, and he's like, "Teleport!" And he headed back to Valhalla. totally broke the quest by doing it, and everyone's been talking about it ever since. And it's been over a year, and it's still a talking point. But that was one of the best ones, and I was sad I wasn't actually playing that one because I had to leave early.
Yeah, it's those people who will just go that extra mile, who will do something logical that you, as a quest master, may not have expected, and sometimes it can throw even you for a loop when your PC's like, I would abandon them because they screwed me. To give you my favorite example of one of my favorite NPCs is Draxon. I will give this man any role that is a character-driven role any day of the year because he will take it and he'll make it his own. I ran this during this Dragonflight quest, the one you guys will get the documents for later on. There's basically two factions. Now, usually in a faction quest, one is you pick one and you work for that one, or you pick the other and you work for that one, and usually at the end you expect them to headbutt. Well, the trick to the Dragonflight quest was basically that you needed both these groups to really be able to kill the boss that was coming in, that you felt tremors, you didn't know what was going on. It ends up being the Trask that you had to fight at the very, very end of it. So Draxon was playing a hunter. His quests were actually supposed to be very, very challenging. They were not easy quests to accomplish at all. He was a hunter. He was going out for his last hunt. He wanted to kill a dragon with a single arrow to get a pristine body, to stuff it, and be his final trophy piece, the pièce de résistance of his collection. So these PCs, this small group of PCs, I believe it was Akrith, Miyaka, and a couple other people, worked so hard to complete his quests. Every step of the way. Literally, one of his quests was, I had a green bow. I went, Shane, their first objective is to find this green bow. They can find it at any time in the next hour. If they don't find it, you leave. Okay, Tim, where is it going to be? See that bush over there? And if you've ever been to the Bhakti site, it's literally just bushes all around. Yeah? Take the bow, and I just spear it into the bush about 100 feet away. And I'm like, we'll see if they find it or not. It took them 10 minutes, but they found the damn thing, even though he did not tell them where it was at all. They found the thing. They just happened upon it before they came to him. They're just like, he's like, yeah, I need a bow. This one? Yeah, that's exactly what I need at this exact moment. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next level. Anyway, so they proceeded for the next hour and a half, completing all of his very difficult missions. It all accumulated in them creating this beautiful arrow, a perfect bow, a trap. They had to actually go into the dragon's den, lure one of the dragons out. The trap locked up. There was a cinematic scene where Reeve ran the arrow from the bow drawn from Shane's bow, ran it across and just hits the dragon. The dragon falls down to the ground. Everyone's like, yeah, we got him! They completed every single one of his quests perfectly. Barbarian. John walks up and goes,
I cut off the dragon's head!
A dragon! I cut off its head! And everybody who had just worked for the past hour and a half went, no! No! They immediately killed him. And then at the very end quest, I was going through the successes, because in a time-dependent quest, you go through what they did complete properly and what the benefits for completing that was. And I was going, you completed these dragon quests, these are your advantages. You failed these ones, so these are your hindrances. You completed all of the hunter's quests, so the hunter is supposed to fight on your side. However, there was an event that transpired which may have soured the hunter's decision. Hunter, who are you fighting with today? And Shane just goes, not you guys. Turns and goes and fights with the Tarask now. Not part of the intended boss fight, but just shows that failure is an option in all quests and always should be, especially when they ruin it that much. So we all have examples of those role players that just kind of take those moments and make them just a beautiful thing that everyone remembers. Confidence is my next category. This is one that's hard to determine overall. Confidence is basically what I give the term for people who you give major roles to and who you give aspects of your quest to. I call them mini QMs as well. So basically these people are the linchpins for Dropbox quests, for example. There are 3 areas. Well, My main NPC may be me. I might choose to play the core role in these, like in a duchy-sized event or duchy-sized Dropbox quest. But I have sent these other NPCs to this other area, which I will not see them until the end of this quest. I choose at least one person from each of these groups, and I go, you're in charge of this area. If anything goes sideways, make a call. Figure it out. If they fail the quest because they do something stupid, that's your call to make. And these are people that I have role-played with for a while, or trust, or have been with me while I've been making the quest, so they understand the overall concept. These are usually, in any large event, I recommend having 5 or 6 people who are basically sub-QMs who know just about as much of the quest as you do, so if things start going sideways, they can intervene to try and put things back on track or make things make sense. Reeves, again, pretty self-explanatory. A person in each area who is a non-combat NPC or a NPC for working alongside the PCs who can make any kind of rules calls or range calls, disputes, fighting disputes, things like that, who can literally step in a moment's notice and go, here's what happened, okay, stop, all right, we're good, you understand what's going on, play on again. And these are the people who keep quests streamlined. In large event-style quests, for things like BotD, GE, things like that, I actually recommend specific Reeves, not just NPCs who can also read, but actually having a Reeve inside the quest to keep things fair for everybody involved. You may find some players have multiple. PCs should not Reeve. In general, it's just like a person reading in a battle game. You have a biased point of view. These NPCs that are also Reeves should also be non-combatant for most aspects. So they should have no vested interest in which way a shot is called or a range is determined. A PC Reeve, unless they are a Reeve specifically, I would not recommend, because they will, even though they may, I don't want to say people will cheat to their advantage, however, you don't want to give them that option to tarnish their own reputation or to possibly hamper the experience for other players, right? If they're going to be a Reeve, they're working for you. That's kind of always been my opinion on Reeves. Reeves are there as a neutral party to make sure things are fair. Regardless of how the story of the quest is designed to go or the options or the path that it can take, Reeves are there to make sure mechanically and by the rules, quests, spell lists, and shots are taken appropriately. They're also there to ensure safety as well. Within this, you may find some people have advantages of multiple types. For example, myself, I'm a very confident role player, very confident in helping out with quests. I'm a good fighter. At this point, I would say I'm not exactly the best magic caster at all, or even a Reeve, because I don't know all the new spells and things like that. So I have a couple of those aspects, but definitely not all of them. Same with Steffi, who I consider another excellent NPC. I'd give Steffi excellent casting, great roleplay, great confidence, and amazing reading skills. She has 4 out of the 5 categories. You'd put her as one of your major roles. A brand new player who is literally the 3rd week on a field at a kingdom level event, probably not an ideal choice for a boss monster. For 2 reasons. A, it's not going to be a really fun encounter for everybody because they're probably going to be able to overcome this newbie very quickly. B, this newbie's not going to have a fun experience either. And these quests are about enjoyment for everybody, not just your PCs, but also your NPCs. Your NPCs should also be having fun. If your NPCs aren't having fun, you're only doing half the job. Okay, Courtney just brought up another great example of why it's important to give your characters a fair amount of description, and also newer players you might need to kind of give additional information to. So we had a quest this past mid-range in Wolfenfang, and the QM, who was a newer storyteller as well, went up to a newer player and said, okay, you're willing to NPC? Awesome. You are an aspect of a trickster. Basically what's going to happen was the PCs come up to you and challenge you, you're going to play tag. So that's your objective. Okay, awesome. That sounds like a decent explanation, right? Except the newer player didn't have an ounce of trickster in him. Not a gram. Because when Courtney here actually walked up and said, okay, so what's your challenge? Oh, it's game tag, you have to chase me. Okay, so when do we start? Like now? Sure. And she just touches him. That was the end of that portion of the quest. That was it. Because that NPC just had no concept of, yeah, now, oh, damn it. The trickster spirit was kind of a trickster. So just those little things. And I mean, it's a funny moment, and it was a small little cute quest, and it was a lot of fun overall. But it was just that moment of, it literally made several PCs that go, oh, that's done. Okay, that was easy. Okay, garb and props for quests. Again, we're getting into two tiers here. We have the instantaneous one-shot quest for a small group, your park, things like that, and then your larger event-style quest. If you're running a planned quest for your group, please ensure you have appropriate garb for your monsters. Please ensure you have appropriate garb for your NPCs. And what I mean by that is you do not need to have ornate, super fancy armor for every single warrior inside your quest. What you do need is a single colored tabard to distinguish factions. Masks, tabards, exactly. So, for example, I have an evil group inside my quest here. They are very evil. You should not like them at all. How do you know they're evil? Because they're wearing red tabards. Oh, well, that's now very easy to distinguish. So now when I'm walking by a random PC in a fight and they stab me in the back because they're actually an NPC, it's my own fault because I should have seen the red tabard on them. There is nothing worse being a PC and being told there's enemies on the other side. You have to go and kill them all. And then as you're walking through your group getting stabbed by one of the NPCs because they just kind of moseyed in. It's anticlimactic in many ways, and it doesn't drive towards a good story. Now, if that character was an assassin, that was their job, that's one thing. But if it's literally, these are supposed to be a warrior race that are honorable fighters, and they're just literally going through the crowd going, you don't see me? You don't see me? Anticlimactic. As opposed to they have just a basic red cutout circle on the top, not even surged sim, whatever. I know you're an NPC, that's awesome. Does it require wings? I have wings. Does it require black face paint? I have black face paint. The smaller one-shot quests don't require the most extravagant garb at all. Make do with what you got. It's better to have a quest and have to describe things than have no quest at all. But it's even better to not have to describe things because you have the stuff. So most parks have a small stash of garb or props or things you can kind of call upon at any time. If your park doesn't have one and you're listening to this call right now, guess what your responsibility is now? You all get to make these. You didn't know you're going to get a responsibility out of this, but now you do. It will really help improve quests for yourself, and it will also encourage other people to create quests. If they know that they come up to you and go, hey, and I literally get this almost every single week, hey, Sai, I want to run a quest next week. I need this kind of garb. Can you bring it for me? Well, I don't have a rhinoceros man, but I do have 2 horned masks that I can kind of fold one down on and gray face paint. Will that work for you? Yes? Awesome. We've got something going on now. Hey, Sai, I want to create a evil group for my next quest. Awesome. Here's some black tabards for you. Enjoy. Those smaller details make things a lot better. Props. When you're making props for a quest, understand one thing. PCs love stuff. Anything you put in a quest, do not expect to get it back. There are certain items, if you are investing a fair amount of money into them, that you can request back from a PC. However, if a PC has fought for 2 hours at an event to earn this treasure chest that has the symbol of an ancient warrior, and inside of it is supposed to be a dagger or a sword that gives them armor-breaking, shield crushing, things like that. At the end of the quest, nothing is better than being given this item to keep. It's an amazing fond memory. It's a physical prop that they get to keep for the end of this quest. And having a unique item to be that item, so it doesn't have to be a great sword. It can be a terrible sword as long as it's legal. that's still a sword they're going to keep, and they're going to be able to tell people about how they got this sword. Even if it's not a relic, even if it has no hold after this quest, it has no power after this quest, it's still something they got to keep. Julie's about to bring down a cask. Is she sharing with everyone? Is it a bottle of booze we all get to drink? What kind of cask is this, Jay? Oh, okay. There we go. If you look at Talaris' image there, you'll see a treasure chest that Steffi actually made. Steffi, do you want to explain what this is and why you chose to do what you did with them?
Sure can. Okay, so these are part of a set. There were 6 boxes. Or no, sorry, 5 boxes. There are 5 boxes. They were each divided in half by a color strip. The color strip represented a sash color. And then they had a park heraldry drawn on them, and then something else. Either there were 2 different phoenixes, different times. What does that one have? Oh, so hers says 5+. So that one was what this meant was that you needed, in order to open this box, you needed to either be from Linagond, a scout, or have played for 5+ years.
Is that not a bard sash?
It's green.
Oh, geez, okay.
It's just the color is hard. Well, no, the color is hard to see, but it is green. So the basic gist of this was basically Julie was the only one who could open that without issues. She had all 3 of those things. Now, these boxes were actually a trick, which was even better. But basically, in order to open them, if you didn't have one of those required things, for each thing you didn't have, you had to pay an additional life into the box. So if Julie had only met 2 out of the 3 criteria, she would have had to pay life into the box to even open it. All of those boxes, the PCs that opened them got to keep. Those boxes cost me $1, and then I bribed a local artist to paint them. Done.
And those boxes still show up to this day at random events. People still hold on to them, as evident by somebody popping out right here, right now. So it's getting stuff makes your quest tangible. It makes it more real for somebody and more permanent for somebody. There are some amazing quests that I've been on, that I've had the time of my life, a great experience, and I consider them to be great quests. But when you ask me about what my favorite quests are, they're literally the ones I got swag from. I know that sounds silly, but swag is gold. Courtney Stell's unicorn mask. I literally have a chest up in my Amtgard room. Seth, you can test them. It's about this big, and it's just filled with stuff that I have gotten from quests, because I am a hoarder of quest relics and things like that. And I'm one of those people that if you run a quest 4 years later, I'm the one who pulls out the scroll and says, "Hey, I have this thing that raises a mummy in necrotic zones. I don't want to use it for this quest. It was from yours. Can I use it now?" And you go, "It's written on toilet paper. How do you still have this?" But quite literally, those are the things that people love. And in the goal of quests is to make something people enjoy, people have fun with, and people talk about, and it inspires others to make more quests. So that pretty much covers government props. Like I said, event level quests, things where it's a one-shot deal, GE, Fury, Battle of the Dens, large events. If you have a big bad boss, try and get them a custom-made set of guard made. And in fact, we're seeing a major trend of that up in the north right now, where players are specifically getting special guard made for long NPCs for quests. The Duchy is contributing to paying for those aspects of things through their monthly responsibilities. And it is resulting in far better storylines and much more clear and concise quests. Remember how we talked about that suspension of disbelief? There's nothing worse than seeing a person in a very slim red tabard with this phrase on it, holding a single sword and a fireball, and going, "I'm a dragon." "You, sir, are the most pathetic dragon I have ever seen!" As opposed to somebody who's wearing a full dragon mask with massive wings, 2 swords of matching colors. Visually, it's more impactful, and it's also more intimidating, in all honesty. When you see somebody fully dressed out to all nines in scales, in the mask with the swords. You're like, actually, I'm not going to try and fight you by myself. I'm going to get my buddies. Be right back. And it never removes that suspension of disbelief. So the last real category that I'm going to go through is puzzles in PvP. Puzzles are very, very simple. You can create riddles, you can create rhymes, anything like that, to try and make people think, to slow them down, to extend quests, to try and get them to do stuff. The one thing I'll say about puzzles is make sure they're not, if the puzzle is hard enough, that there's another way. Okay? Just like in any other thing, there shouldn't be one way in. If you get to a magical creature and they say, "Halt! To pass this bridge, you must answer me these questions 3." Well, their options are either A, answer all the puzzles, the riddles, or B, take the treacherous journey down the cliff where you could almost die, fight the trolls at the bottom, the treacherous climb back up where you have to fight spiders, and then you can get to the other side. And then when you come back across this way again, you gotta do it all again. Or answer these 3 puzzles for the entire group. Or throw the guy off the bridge. that is also another excellent viable option. Or I could kill you. That is also a great way of thinking about it. Having these ways around. So if it's a little fairy, I'm going to kill you. That's super easy. If it's a 10-foot tall stone golem, you're probably not going to take the try and fight them route directly because they're going to go clink. That was annoying. So either a much more difficult path to get there if they can't figure it out, or multiple riddles where they have to get 3 out of 5, or as time goes on, they give additional clues. So if they don't get them in the first, minute, they get clue number 1. Or if they don't know the clue, they can sacrifice lives, magic, equipment to get a clue. And literally, I've seen a warrior get stuck in a riddle and go, "Okay, I don't know the answer to this. Can I get a clue?" "Sure, you have to give me something." "Okay, not a problem. Here, I'll give you one of my swords." "Awesome. Here's your clue." Still don't get it. "Give me something else." Here's my shield, I guess." "Awesome. Here's your other clue." "I still don't got it." "Awesome. I can give you another clue if you want." "Okay. Give me your armor." Okay. And literally begin to strip off every... And in the final fight, a person who's normally wearing 4 points of chainmail armor was sitting there basically as a peasant with a single stick. He got through the puzzle, and he felt good that he got through the puzzle. He had to pay a price for it. And that's that kind of risk-reward system that you want to do. You don't want to just be like, "Well, you didn't get the puzzle, but here's the answer," because then you're cheating the PC of that victory goal, as opposed to giving them an option to kind of continue. There's nothing worse than literally having a quest stop. Every other section, Dropbox quest. They finish the boss. They finish the roleplay one. All 20 players are now sitting at this one puzzle, and nobody can get it. And they've all been sitting there for 10 minutes. What has just happened? They have stopped believing in the quest. They have stopped playing the game. They are bored. They will begin to walk off field. Give them hints, give them clues, give them an alternative method of going around it. PvP. Guess what? Like we said earlier, PvP is going to happen inside of quests, especially large style quests. Expect it, embrace it, understand that it's going to happen. If you want to try and reduce the chances of PvP, there are a couple of tricks. There are players out there who are just literally trigger happy. They want to fight things. So if people just want to fight things, one of the best things in almost every single one of my quests, you will find it. There's a group of weaker monsters that are just going around and harassing PCs. They're just running around, yelping at them. They're dogs, they're goblins, they're buffalo, they're whatever. But they're coming around, they're attacking you. It's enough that PCs need to keep their guard up. And those PCs who just want to go and hit something and fight have something to do. That's what they want to do in a quest. If that's what they find enjoyable, I've given them something they want to do. And instead of derailing a quest or instead of, upsetting another PC because they got bored, so they just wanted to kill something, they have another outlet. Now, they could still go and do those things. I'm not stopping them from killing a PC. I'm just giving them another alternative. We talked about reward systems. If there's a reason for PCs to move forward the quest, you will find parties divide up and complete all the tasks. And then when it comes down to the last one, it's like a Mexican standoff. It's like, okay, we both have what we need to finish this part. Let's hand it in, and then we're going to duke it out so that one of us actually gets this item. And the number of times I've seen, awesome, I have the item, stabbed in the back, son of a bitch. And then somebody grabs the item and runs away with it. That happens. It's part of Amtgard. It's part of real life. As long as that item's not a game item that shouldn't leave field, if that is the end of the quest and they have now taken the end item and ran away with it, good for you. You are successfully a thief. Now, if the PCs chase after them, let the PCs chase after them for as long as they want. There's no, like, I'm out of game now. No, you stole an item. They're chasing after you. Now, if you hide for at least 5 minutes and nobody can find you, I'm willing to call that fair game. But if they're chasing you and you hit this magical line, there's no magical line. They chase you. They catch you. They kill you. The other system you can also do that I do not recommend, if you are creating a quest where, for example, it's a structured town, for example, there's a sheriff or something like that that is literally locking, like, it's a law to town. If you kill somebody, sheriff's going to lock you up. And the sheriff can literally jail you. You have to go to jail for this amount of time. That does work, and that's totally okay, as long as A, they can actually kill the sheriff, so the sheriff has to kill them to put them in jail. And B, as long as there's something for them to do in jail. So if they get sent to jail, there is a old homeless man in there or another thief in there that has hints or clues they can actually get while they're in jail. As long as that jail does not remove them from the entire quest, it's an okay thing. But when you do this jailing method, it is restricting that. There are other personal tricks and things like that you can do as well. Those are up to you. My final tips for all this stuff is don't be afraid to fail. All right? The best quest writers that I've ever met out there, myself, Shane, Blackhawk, Akrith, we have all had terrible quests. Quests that have gone so badly or so sideways that I'm like, there's no salvaging this. There's nothing I can do. Quest over. Nobody really had a good time. Sorry, guys. Didn't think about this one mechanic that broke my entire quest, but you did it, so it happened. I'm not going to railroad you into my conclusion because one PC came up with a really good idea. I've also had quests where I have not balanced my monsters appropriately, and the PCs just steamroll over everything. And I'm like, turns out I need 4 dragons to fight off 50 people and not just a single person. Funny how that works. So I've had bad quests. I know Blackhawk has had bad quests. I know Actors have had bad quests. We all do it. It happens. Learn from those mistakes. Take what you get out of that, because you'll always get something out of every single quest. Either it's a new NPC or a new person that you want to use as an NPC regularly because they just did something that really, I like that. A new mechanic that you never contemplated before. A new way of viewing an NPC or viewing a situation. Take whatever you get and run with it, and don't be disheartened when you botch a quest, because it is going to happen. Hopefully not on your very first attempt. Hopefully I've given you the building grounds to build a quest for the first time and have it be small, simple, and successful. That's kind of the goal out of this, is to give you the tools to make a successful quest. If you botch one and you're completely disheartened, I'm on Facebook a lot. Feel free to message me. I can give you a rundown of a quest. I have also, and regularly, Steffi does this as well. If you have a question about your quest or you want somebody to go through and figure out how somebody could break your quest, feel free to email me. Feel free to send it to me. I will review it for you, and I will tell you how I would personally go in and break the quest. Because, as many PCs know, there's a term called signing a quest. And that's where literally I take your conclusion and substitute my own in a fashion that you agree with it. I have done this many, many times. And yeah, exactly. Courtney, exactly right. A second set of eyes is always good. You work on this project so well, you only view it from one angle. Like, this is a perfect quest. And then I pick it up and go, awesome! So you have an ice castle which none of the PCs can transcend. What if I use a fireball on it? On that concept, try to never say no. If you have to say no because it's a mechanic that has to stay there, for example, that castle, give a reason why. So I throw the fireball. The fireball melts a small hole inside the ice, but the magic reseals almost instantly afterwards. Oh, all right. What I did worked, but it didn't work well enough. Got that. As opposed to I throw the fireball, nothing happens. No shit. That sucks. So try not to say no. If they try and do something that's outside the box, reward PCs who try and do that. That is all that I really have to say about general quest writing. I hope that the document that I gave you guys proves useful. I've talked for like an hour and a half now, so I'm going to let Steffi take over. Before we do, does anybody have any questions, points that they want to add in? Like I said, I do consider myself a great quest writer, but every time I do one of these, I learn something new myself because it's great to have a roundtable conversation. Does anybody have any things they want to bring up, questions to throw at us, or anything like that?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll make it big on my screen now.
January 3rd, this coming up is my birthday, so my 30th
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you. I decided to run a quest for my birthday.
Wait, you're going to quest yourself on your birthday?
I am.
The other way around.
I am. We already have someone bringing cake, so no worries on that.
All right, well, as long as you get a cake out of it.
Well, it's not a cake. It's a plate of brownies. But anyway, that's not the point. My idea for the quest is kind of like, it's kind of an open quest. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it because, yes, it's a quest, but there's going to be bits and pieces, and it's not all continuous. So it's kind of like a free range, but a Dropbox as well. And it's going to be guided, because I'm going to guide them. Basically, I'm my character, and I'm walking them through each scenario as they happen. And there'll be periods in between where we're going to take breaks, we're going to do regular battle games, and each scenario is different. So that if I say I have an NPC for this area, he won't be NPC for every area. So that way he gets to be NPC and PC. Now, do you see any problems with that?
If you're talking about an overall quest in general, where
Like,
it looks like you've got a lot of mechanics built into your quest,
yeah.
which is good. I really like that. So you're kind of seeing the things of what you can add in and do.
Yeah.
If you want, actually, I'll talk to you privately afterwards about it, because it looks like you want a dissection of like the full quest. So I don't want to eat up everybody's time and then give everybody all the cheats and answers to your quest, because they are going to post this video afterwards.
Probably. Hey,
so-
come on out, Bell Hello! January 3rd.
So rather than let all the PCs know all the tricks and things like that, I'll answer questions after everybody else is done. Sound good?
Okay, cool.
Okay, sounds good. For player actions, you can take a tip from Dragon World or Dungeon World. When you think, give the player choice, you think the fireball will work with the water flooding. There's no problems. Do you want to do? Oh yeah. We call this the Dungeon Master. Are you sure? There is nothing more terrifying and revealing when the Dungeon Master says, "Are you sure you want to do that?" That generally leads to terrible things. But you're absolutely right. That's another way you can do it. You can go, before you do it, you have enough arcane magic to know this could happen. Do you proceed? Well, you can actually do that as a bluff. Maybe the fireball is the right way to go through the wall. Maybe that's actually one of the solutions you came up with. But if you do it that way as well, you also put this hesitation inside of the player. The player's like, I'm going to put this fireball in it. Does it work? You know that this could happen. Do you still want to throw that fireball? No. No, I don't. I'm gonna put it away now, actually. I'll find the other way through. So that's another great way. Absolutely, it's a fantastic way of, like I said, the Dungeon Master. Are you sure? But remember, if you do that, and then they then choose to proceed, cause and effect. So the water rushes down and may knock them back into the moat. They may die one time. But if they're having that penalty, is there some kind of reward out of it? Is the wall now thinner? Will it help them out later? Because if you just kill them because they did something you weren't expecting to, without at least some comedic, maybe they get knocked back, maybe they get soaked, and it's more just a cinematic, insulting effect. That's fine. But you just got to be careful about how you balance the risk reward, right? Now, if they're trying to do something and you're like, all right, here's a little bit of challenge. You can hit the wall. I'm going to take this small shield right here. I'm going to back up here to my tiny shield here. You know the weak point of the wall. If you hit it right here from 20 feet away, because it's way up here, you hit the spot, but you know the wall should probably crumble. But if you miss and you hit any other spot, you know the wall will probably just fall on you instead. So you can also challenge them as well. So there's a lot of ways to go around PCs trying to do those things, and there's no wrong way of doing it except for just saying, no, it doesn't work. You can say, no, it doesn't work, but you have to give a why. Always a why. Does anyone else have any other questions? No? All right. I'm now going to hand things off to Steffi, since you guys have heard me ramble on for a long time now. Steffi has begun to make a fantastic name for herself in terms of story arc writing. So it's not just about a single quest. My skill has always come from mechanics, how to write a quest, how to build the quest, how to make fun, exciting fights within a quest, how to make scenarios. That has always been my strength. A couple of years ago, Steffi and I teamed up together, and primarily Steffi ran the Northern Empire's Alliance story arc, which was a 6-month story arc, and she wrote the story, the characters, how they interacted, how the parks could fight each other, all those kinds of things. And what I did was I just created the small scenarios, the battle games that they encountered. So Steffi would tell me they did this, they did this. This is the kind of situation I want to get them into. This is what I was thinking. And then I would create a balanced scenario to try and do it. With her assistance, obviously. But she was the brainchild behind the characters. And that was probably one of our most... Courtney gives you a great compliment. Best story in the Empire, I think, by the way. So good job, Steffi. I would tend to agree with it, absolutely. So I'm going to hand off story and story arcs to Finola now and let her talk to you guys for a little bit. And I'm actually going to step away for just a minute, but Steffi, you have the floor.
Awesome. All right, so story arcs are a little different than one-shot quests. With a one-shot quest, you have, here's my start, here is my finish, it's all in one afternoon, okay, thanks, see you later. That's not what happens when you're doing a long-term arc. Now, there are a couple of ways to do a long-term arc. One is just in your park. That's the easier of the way to do it, and if you're about to launch a long-term arc, start there. Because if you start doing multiple parks right off the bat, it's a lot to keep track of. The other kind, then, is the multiple park long-term arc. Now, they do share a lot of the same difficulties. The first major difficulty is actually keeping people's attention. I recently did an arc that spanned an entire year, and winter was hard because people don't want to come out and play in the winter as much. You have to really pump and pump and pump and pump the fact that your quests are coming. You've got to find ways to keep people engaged and otherwise role-playing in a time when it is cold outside. No one wants to just stand there and talk. And so your quests are going to tend towards being very high action in those months because you don't want to stand around puzzle solving when it's minus 40 outside. So I have learned a few tips and tricks for keeping people. You can also do indoor quests if you have the space. Not every group has access to those spaces. Wolvenfang is lucky we can rent our school occasionally behind where we play, but not everyone gets access to indoor space. So you've got to come up with other ways. The other really great way to maintain involvement is actually feedback from your players. Listen to them when they come off field. Talk to them. Ask them what their favorite part of the quest was. See what they did in the quest. For instance, I ran in the multi-park arc. I found it very difficult because I don't know everyone in every park. That's just a fact. You can't know everyone in every park. And I had a bunch of people in Whitestone get very, very involved, but I didn't really know what it was that they were. I didn't know them, so I couldn't tailor anything to them. So then you go to people you do know in that park, and you start building off that. So the first thing that you need in a multi-part story is, what is your end goal? End goal way over here, somewhere 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, however long you think your end goal is. For the Alliance quest, for instance, it was Frostbite was where we knew it was coming, and it was a fight against the Alliance forces and the Empire forces. That's what we were building up to, was an all-out huge clash. Kill the head of the Alliance, make it go away. All right, cool, perfect. We knew that that was where we wanted to go when we started the arc in August. But we didn't know how we were going to get there. So then you have to go, okay, that's my end goal. How am I introducing this? And you may think it's funny to do both ends, but introduction is just as important as the end goal. Now, what we did with the Alliance was we recruited a bunch of our heavy, unruly stick jocks. We put them all in matching tabards, and I put them all behind me, and I was playing the big bad, or what was the figurehead of the big bad. And I walked into court. I demanded the outgoing Prince of the Northern Empire step down immediately and forfeit his lands and all of the Empire to me in the name of the Alliance. We then proceeded to have all of the knights who we had in advance gotten to agree to come into court bound so that they could be summarily executed in front of court. And it was a huge send-off. Like, everybody was drawn into this drama immediately because people were dying. There was a very clear threat to their land, and good or evil, you don't want people messing with your homes. They then proceeded to lay down the laws to make using magic illegal, which, again, good or evil, is probably going to piss you off. So having a really strong out-the-gate start is super important for grabbing that initial attention. Because if your opening quest doesn't have at least a little bit of draw, people are going to go, oh, well, it was just another quest, and they may not realize it's part of an arc until it's too late.
Just on that quick note, just so everyone can kind of understand the importance of that launching point. Stephanie and I had already planned for a certain quest to happen that night, and we expected about 20 to 30 people to participate throughout that night, because that's an average midnight quest at Bati with PCs. Mm-hmm. What we did not expect is that that quest resulted in such a draw that we had 10 times the number of, well, we had about 60, was it 60 or 70? I think it was 70.
70, because we had 7 groups that went.
Decided to go through instead.
So when you have a really excellent beginning, you can really draw people in. Now, what that actually comes down to is the motivation, not only for your bad guys, but also for what would engage your PCs. Much like Tim was talking about before, your PCs have to have a reason to be involved. In this case, it was, hey, someone's invading my lands. I'm not okay with that. Most people are not okay with that. The only people who stepped out, we had a couple of people from Golden Vale there who was just like, we're from Golden Vale, and they put their hands up, and the invading army let them walk. We had no reason to pick a fight with them. They weren't our problem. The invading army also had a very well thought out motivation. They were here not of their own volition. They needed the land. Wolvenfang, the Northern Empire, was where they landed, so it was where they were going to make their new home. They were very warlike, and we're very used to it's my way or the highway, so here we go. The main villains were a pair called the Head and the Voice. The Head didn't get seen very much. In fact, she was only referenced a few times and then seen once. The Voice was, as you can imagine, the voice of the army. And when we were discussing how to make this villain memorable, we started talking about memorable villains. So, in literature, who was your most memorable? And the one that came up for her in conversation was actually Umbridge from Harry Potter. And we decided that we were going to channel Umbridge with this voice character, because Umbridge is someone pretty much universally hated. Once we got that rolling, it was a matter of having people's reactions then dictate where the story next went. So, yeah. So we had this secondary quest that night, and depending on how well overall, what ended up happening is we broke it down into sections, and everyone ran the same quest in different groups. But it was the same quest over and over and over again. Normally that's something you want to avoid, but we really didn't have a way around it. And so we instead averaged the outcomes, which resulted in one character losing access to his magic for the remainder of the arc, and a couple of the other characters having permanent gimps because they were saved in 5 out of the 7 instead of all 7. None of the characters were forever lost, which was nice, but at that point, it actually becomes a matter of bookkeeping and paying attention. Once you've moved past your initial, what do I want to happen, and your first full-out quest, you have to kind of go, all right, what were my PC's reactions to X, Y, and Z? Those things being the themes in the quest. So in this one, it was the invading army theme. What were my PC's reaction to winning or losing? Because you do want to keep track of whether your PCs won or lost individual quests. And what did they win and what did they lose? And as the story progressed, we also found we had to react to PCs coming up with plans. They'd come to us and they'd be like, I want to do this. And we'd be like, all right, cool. Give me a week and then we'll run it, because I do need to set this up. So one of the examples was Wolvenfang was the hardest hit in this particular one, partially because A, the Alliance landed in Wolvenfang, and B, because Tim and I are here. So Wolvenfang kind of got the short end of the stick. Dear Wolvenfang, sorry about your life. The Alliance had set up a permanent base in Wolvenfang's keep. And the PCs had been back and forth about what are we going to do, what are we going to do, what are we going to do, and finally one of them's like, why don't we just blow up the keep? And so that's exactly what they did. They came to me and they're like, all right, Steffi, this is what we're going to go try and do. I'm like, okay. But there are also innocent hostages in the keep. And they're like, okay, all right. In 2 weeks, we're invading the keep. You're on notice, QM. And I'm like, all right, cool. Thanks for the notice. See you in 2 weeks. So you do have to be able to, when you're doing longer arcs, respond to what your PCs want. If your PCs hated the first 2 quests, maybe it's time to go, okay, what did they hate? Was it that they feel like they're always losing? Was it that they felt they were winning too easily? And then you just kind of have to keep records. I have in my computer files every quest from the arc and who killed who, what major NPCs were damaged or destroyed, and I had like big long charts. When you're doing multiple arc quests, it is much like writing a novel. You're looking at building this arcing story, and there's got to be that sense of struggle, so you can't just let the PCs win all the time. There's got to be some sense of accomplishment, and there's got to be a sense of change. During this arc, one of the battle games turned really south really fast for the Alliance. Like, we started out very even in our quest scenarios in Linnegond, and then somehow this happened, and the Alliance got their faces handed to them. Just utterly, utterly handed to them. And so that became a thing. They captured the voice. Legit, fair and square. It didn't fit into my narrative, but I decided, well, they did it. I can't say they didn't. They have this major NPC, and now that NPC is at the mercy of the PCs, and we're going to see where it goes from there. When you're doing the... Oh, yes. Yeah, please take a second and go watch that. It's lots of fun. I'm a very bad actor when the camera is on me.
So just as a prelude to this, the whole concept behind the story arc was actually based on Firefly. The concept was there was this overwhelming force that you could not beat head-to-head, and it took several quests for the PCs to realize that the only way to be successful is to be objective-focused and not
sneaky.
just try and fight them. And so you had to be the rebels, you had to be the guerrilla warfare people. And at first PCs were like, oh man, there's no way we can win. Wait, there's a backdoor? Well, let's try the backdoor. And things slowly began to progress that way. And when you let the PCs have that aha moment, it's so much better. This was a major reward. So they had fought against Steffi and the head of the Alliance so hard, trying to get it to die. When they finally got this, we actually made a rewarding video so that everybody could experience it, because not everybody was there for that particular quest, but we wanted everyone to share in that story, so we actually created a video for it. Little cheesy little thing, but it works out. You guys can enjoy.
So this brings me back into immersion, which, again, like a one-shot quest, you do need to bring your players into your world. But the problem with a multi-arc, or a multi-piece quest, we'll call it, when you're doing, say you are planning 6 quests, is there's downtime in between those 6 quests. You're not going week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, unless you are insane. Don't do that. You will burn out so fast. What instead is happening is you're doing, one quest here, and then 3 weeks later you're doing a quest here, and then another 2 weeks, and you're doing a quest there. And so things are happening in between as well. So you've really got to maintain some kind of draw into your quest. Whether it be, in the case of the Alliance, they controlled the Empire. Lots of things were illegal. So it made for some interesting roleplay on forums and on Facebook, where people were trying to, for lack of a better term, suck up to their new the people who now own the Empire. We had a particularly memorable thing where one of the noblemen decided, screw this, I'm going to swear loyalty to the Alliance and then betray them. What he forgot to take into consideration was that the Alliance had bards and other members capable of enforcing the truth. And so when it came out that he was intending to betray them, they murdered his NPC wife, and then I brought a skull in my bag to Field, made him publicly swear allegiance to me, and then handed him his wife's skull, telling him he needs to ensure he does better next time. This was not a quest, this was just a side piece of RP, but it made an impression. Well, I was not nice to him. I was just not. But when you do things like that, it sticks with a person. Like, he was almost ready to cry at this plastic skull. I do try and be available. Yeah, you should also try and be available for players if they want to try something. Also, if they want to warn you in advance, because again, it takes time to plan a quest. So if they want to go and invade a something, you want to be able to know in advance. Facebook is your friend. We used to have forums. We don't really use them anymore. They're pretty much dead. But any kind of social media that you want to start role-playing on, I know that Whitestone Valley, for instance, has a Facebook group dedicated to role-playing. There's a few of them that are out there. And I also encourage people when I'm running a quest arc to come to me personally and tell me, hey, my character has done this off to the side. Can I get some feedback, some interaction, something? There you go. I did actually not for the Alliance quest, but for my next multiple arc quest, I did have a Facebook page. It saw some roleplay, not a lot. Facebook I find is a little clunky for some people to roleplay on. But it is something I try and encourage. Another thing that I personally did, not a lot of people would do it because it is time consuming, is I wrote recaps. Every time there was a quest, I wrote out, this is what like with an in-character tone. This is what happened. This is what the PCs discovered. This is, what the PCs, where the PCs failed. All presented in an in-character way. Preferably using names when I remembered them, but I'm bad at names. So that you could, if you missed a quest, look back and go, oh, hey, this happened. Okay, so now I'm caught up. Next time I want a quest in this arc. It was also very helpful in a multiple group setting where if there was a quest in Whitestone Valley on just a random park day, Wolvenfangers aren't necessarily going to drive 6 hours to go for a quest. So keeping PCs up to date is important, just because it keeps that immersion going and it keeps that ability to remember what's happening going on. That's not to say you tell them everything either, though. I'm going to give you an example of, in my most recent quest arc, those boxes. Remember the lovely box that Julie was showing you earlier? It was a trap. It was a great big old trap. The bad guys also can learn. And the way the bad guys had their asses handed to them 6 times already in this arc. And we're like, all right, brute force doesn't work against the Northern Empire. Why don't we try tricking them? So each of these boxes actually contained a spirit of, like a demon type thing, a void creature. And anytime they opened it up, whoever opened it up got instantly possessed. And it was another 2 months before they had the ability to unpossess someone. So it turned PCs from good guys into villains overnight and shook up a dynamic that was already happening. Bonus points, and then I took out most of the major Wolvenfang PCs. Yeah, it's totally okay to throw out handicaps. It's totally okay to revamp a quest and go, this isn't working. Why isn't it working? I'm going to assume my villains have some level of intelligence. Try a new strategy.
If I can, just for a moment, Steffi.
Yep.
On that handicaps, you're absolutely allowed to throw out curveballs and handicaps to PCs, as long as it doesn't prevent them from participating going forward. So, for example, I was actually one of the PCs that was affected by Steffi's boxes. I got trapped, which in the Northern Empire, my character Sai holds a lot of prestige overall. So when I got converted, I was excited because I know with this mind control exactly what my character, if I had ever been flipped evil, would do. And I began my own chaos to distort things for the good guy's side. And that was fine. Now, if Steffi just said, no, your soul is mine, or no, your character is mine now, but I control what you do, you can do nothing but what I do, that's not as much fun for me. Again, it's all about keeping that engagement for them and giving them an option. You can handicap them, absolutely. You did something super, super dumb, congratulations, you're weak. That really sucks. You're weak. Here's an option that you can get out of it, though. You can double down. Here's another risk. Here's another mini quest that I provide for you, what I can give you. You're fragile, yeah.
Yeah, turn a player into a troll. That's a legit tactic.
Yep. As long as they can still engage in their own way without you puppeting them. Some control is fine. You know, they have their own new objectives, things like that. But they obviously can't tell their friends that they're evil now or anything like that. But you know you're evil. You know you can't help your friends. Your goal is now to benefit me. Go. Have fun.
Your goal is now to do the most damage you can to your home park. Go. And when you give a handicap, you also have to give a way to go around it. Yeah, well, there you go. Mike the Troll got fragile. Oh, there you go. So you can also start doing fun things with rewards in long-term art quests. They can be social rewards. For instance, again, joining with the Alliance had benefits. You could gain a license to use your magic. You weren't killed on sight by the Alliance guards, and I had some fairly aggressive players being the Alliance guards. Basically, if you looked at them funny, they were going to kill you. So there was that level of reward. They also controlled all the money, so your mercenary types were going to gravitate towards them. In the next arc, one of the things you could do, you can also do trinkets and talismans that remain within your quest. The other fun one that I did was you could choose to fall to the evil side. Now, Tim had his character forcibly inflicted with evil. Other characters were given the option to choose that. And then instead of just being told, you work for me now, do these evil things, or be evil to the best of your ability, it was more, I'm going to replace your look the part bonus with a trait that you are now the Void Touched enchantment. Yeah, Mike in there is putting up his hands because he's one of the players that did that. Choosing to become Void Tainted gave you an immediate boost of power, but hindered you towards the end quests. That kind of thing. So, because with longer arcs you can play with it, you can curse someone. I've seen this done in long-term quests, where the person has the cursed trait, and using a greater release gets rid of it for 30 seconds. That kind of thing. So yeah, again, you can play with different kinds of rewards that are more esoteric. Those do take more to keep track of. So once again, I highly recommend keeping good notes. OneNote is very good for that, or Word documents, or whatever works best for you. Does anyone have any questions so far about that kind of thing?
The other thing is also, when you're running a larger story arc overall, having those additional QMs as your assistants, because
so important.
For a large group, there is no way to keep track of everything by yourselves. Stephanie and I, when we took on this project, it was the first time a project like this had really been launched to such an extent within the Northern Empire, and we quickly found ourselves overwhelmed by it. So we had to rely on several other players from each park to be our local go-to.
If you're doing one locally, it's not so bad. I would still recommend at least one sub-GM, someone that someone else can go to, even if you're not there on a day or whatever, so that you have some backup. If you're doing multiple parks, you really, really, really should have at least one person per park that you can trust as a sub-GM. So does anyone have any questions up to this point? Yep.
This isn't really a question about like running my own quest, but I'm part of a quest right now. If a quest has an option to become, say, kingdom-wide, or, for example, empire-wide, etc., how would you go about bringing in other parks if they don't know about the quest?
Okay. That really depends on the nature of the quest that you're starting. Usually the best way to do that is to write a mini intro quest. So it's not your main, hey, look at me quest that your very first quest was. It's more of a, here are the basics of what's happening, presented usually by a helpful NPC, and then get them into the story. So, for instance, I not even here's what you missed, but welcome to what I've got so far. So, for instance, I did a spirits quest. It was the last quest I just did, and the way it was introduced to certain parks was the spirits actually just kind of showed up and were like, "We need help!" And the PCs were like, "Who are you?" And it wasn't until after they had saved those spirits that the spirits were like, "This is where we were coming from. You know, here's the information." So they didn't actually get the information until the quest was over.
Okay.
From what I'm kind of picking up from the question that you're asking, you've already got a small story that's kind of built up in your park, and it sounds like there's some outside interest kind of peering in.
No. I'm actually one of the co-GMs, you could say.
Yeah.
Okay. And the main GM had expressed a want to sort of bring it out park-wide.
Okay.
But he also said that it was. He also said later on he was going to start it off just as a local thing, and if it grew, it was kind of the story's decision.
Yeah. So that's a great way of thinking about it. Let a story become organic. Okay. Never force something down somebody's throat. I have run stories where I'm like, oh man, I got a great idea for a 4-part series. And after part 1, people are like, oh man, that was fun, but I'm kind of undead. We did that last week. And then I'm like, but I had a really cliffhanger. Well, I guess it's over. When people are done with a story, let it die. Let it end. Let a story go out in a blaze of glory rather than letting it just kind of...
One sec.
Yep. There was another question, so we can come back. Oh, are you good to go? No? Okay. So there was another question. We'll come back to you in a second when you're ready. Courtney, what was your question?
Hi. Okay. So I'm just wondering, when do you know, like, you're ready to start a quest? Like, how long, like, I hear a lot of good ideas, like, about, like, I understand that your quests that you can do, like, really small, but, like, working on a story arc, when do you know when you're ready? Like, how
Congratulations, you're ready.
No, I don't mean, like, when do you know you're ready, but when do you know your story is ready?
Okay, I see. Actually, I'll let Stephanie fill this one.
You'll know. You may think it is kind of like writing a book. Jay's kind of right. You kind of will have an outline in your head, and your story is probably ready to go when your first quest is ready to go, and your general idea of where you might want it to end is sitting. Right? You're not necessarily going to have every quest planned out in the arc because that is insane. Especially because what people will do will change what quests you want to run.
So basically you need to have the beginning and the ending, and then the middle will kind of figure itself out?
The middle will kind of figure itself out as you muddle along. Have some ideas in the back of your head percolating, but
Right.
You don't need everything ready all at once. What I would recommend is if you're doing a story arc, have your main garb ready. Like if you have an NPC villain, make sure you have that. As long as you have the pieces and the first quest, basically the first chapter, you should be good to go at that point, because the rest of those arcs are going to be building off of what the first one is. Though you are going to want to know about how many quests you're looking at running, right? Don't jump in and go, I'm going to run 12 quests. Oh, the story was over in 3. Oh well, I guess it's done.
Right, so have, like, main quests, like, maybe once a month, and then if people want to do other things, have that
Then you
available.
can fit them in as needed.
Absolutely. So with that having exactly what Stephanie said, have the beginning, have a rough idea how you have 2 ideas on how you want it to end. A good way for the bad guys kind of thing, like, you know, if things go terribly wrong, Option A. If things go really, really well, option B. And along the way, have a couple of ideas of linchpin moments that are going to happen, where you have a main bad guy, and after 2 months, he's going to do something. You may not know exactly what that is at this exact moment when you launch the quest, but depending on how the PCs act after the first one, that's how he's going to react to it. And depending on how they're doing, you customize it a little bit to kind of bring it back in balance. So if they're doing really, really well, maybe this linchpin is a little more tilted towards his side. So you got to always have that customization to it, but kind of having a good, strong beginning, a rough kind of end background we had, because the story that Steffi just finished, the Spirits of the North storyline, there was a chance in the last quest that we didn't finish it properly, and that she may have had to let that go on for another 6 months, because if the PCs fail, got to give them another chance to go.
Yeah, you never want to, if the PCs fail, unless it's something minor in the grand scheme of things, but if they fail your full arc, your arc's not done. All that means is that you have another, 3 or 4 quests now that you have to do. Make it hard on them. If they had failed the Spirits of the North quest, spirit magic would not have worked in the Empire, in any of my quests for the next 6 months. No reses, no heals, nothing.
But then you can like add another quest line onto that, like arc off of that, and then.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Think about the Star Wars movies. How the second of the original trilogy ended with basically everyone screwed.
Cut's got my tactic down to a T. Flowcharts. I am a visual person. When Stephanie and I first wrote the Alliance story arc together, I had a whiteboard probably like 4 feet wide, and it literally had beginning, middle, and end, and then we had like subcategories jutting off in all directions, and it was like a pretty little rainbow. But when we got stuck with things, even though the way we originally planned it didn't go the way, we could go, all right, well, this is not going to happen anymore. Let's just erase that. But this could still work out, and it gives us another relaunching point, another point to come back to kind of reground you, to make sure in that same concept we talked about, mining, demon, sheep way earlier on, the things still make that sequential sense and it doesn't escalate out of control.
And PCs have a remarkable ability to throw wrenches into your plans. In the Alliance arc, remember I mentioned there was this head of the Alliance that was mentioned a handful of times and appeared once? She was initially supposed to be very powerful and very intelligent. And then one of our players had a quest run for his birthday, and at the end of it, he earned a wish where he could send any one person back to their home dimension. The idea behind it was to give him the ability to send someone he cared about to their home, or perhaps be helpful in some way. He instead went, I want to send the head of the Alliance back to her home dimension. And I looked at Tim and I went, we need to talk. Like now.
So I'm also a big believer in chance. So when somebody does something crazy, I usually come with 2 or 3 options. And what I do is I go, all right, I have written these down on a piece of paper now.
With percentages
6
next to them.
options. Percentages next to them. PC who just came up with this fantastic idea, here's a D100.
Go.
Roll them. Let's see what happens. This way, I'm not forcing the story one way or another. The PC has a concept. They have definitely done something in a positive or destructive manner. But on one side of that is he's gone for the head of the Alliance was gone forever. Nothing bad happened. On the other side, he stayed, knew exactly who cast this, and was friggin' pissed. And then there was stuff in the middle. The more extreme, the smaller the percentage, obviously. But everyone wins the lottery sometimes. Could have been me, could have been them.
All right, Courtney had a follow-up. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, okay, so the second part to my question is, what would you recommend starting out, like if you've never written a quest before, what would you recommend starting out with? Like the small type that Tim does, or like an arc? quest, or just like
I would
dive right-
recommend the small type that Tim does. Even better is if you can do it for a set group of PCs, just to get your feet wet, and it eliminates some of those PvP factors. It gives you a better idea of how to set your tone, how to set your mood. It's also easier for doing it for people. Yeah, do it for a friend quest. Do it for, you've got 4 PCs and 4 NPCs. You're working with smaller numbers. Then the mechanical balance is easier. You can do the guided thing to get the ideas behind setting your tone much easier, and then you can get bigger from there. Do not do what I did and have my second ever quest be an arc that went on for, actually is still on, that portal is still open. That never finished. Like, they finished it, and then someone opened up the portal again because PCs are dumb.
Closure.
So, start small, balloon out. It's easier that way. But if you are starting an arc, I do recommend starting it at an event, like a local event. For instance, a Midrain or a Koro, because then you get the most number of players. So once you're ready to launch an actual arc, start it at a time when you have a lot of players. Don't start it on January the 26th on a day that it happens to be ice raining. Even if that's the day you initially had in your head, that's probably not a good life choice because you're going to have 2 players.
The other thing is also never be afraid to ask another QM for assistance. 90% of us are happy to help in any way we can. So if you're not 100% confident, every park has somebody who has done a lot of storytelling, who runs story arcs fairly frequently one way or another, or who has a connection to another park where somebody can maybe come and kind of give you that safety net or run through your quest, like Stephanie and I have both offered to do, to try and break it ahead of time so you have backup plans for everything. And literally use that person as a main NPC in your quest. Make as many calls as you can yourself. Take ownership if you can. And if things go spiraling out of control and you just kind of, I don't know, you have that person to go, here's a good way of trying to put things back on track. A fantastic example is my man-at-arms, Alex, ran a quest for Wolfang Midrain. It was late at night, and his quest was not designed to be late at night, and he had this one mechanic where people had to tag a spirit that kept draining them and switch out every 30 seconds. Well, people kept touching him, dying after 30 seconds, and then nobody was switching out, and they just stopped using it. So he was like, I don't know how to really tell them properly. So I'm like, want me to help? He's like, yeah. He's like, but don't tell them how to do it, just kind of give them hints. So I'm like, okay, not a problem. It's a night quest. I have 2 glowing balls. They light up every time I hit them. Now they're flashing. And I literally went up to 2 PCs, to multiple PCs, flashed them around them, walked over, and started doing the switching motion every 30 seconds. It took them another 4 or 5 minutes to click into, like, they're giving us the answer. But it ended up putting that quest back on track in a way that Alex had not contemplated before, without giving the answer away. That whole puzzle thing, a quick little hint. So it's always nice to have those people you know you can trust on kind of help out. And Amtgarders are generally, especially role players, are always a bunch of people who are willing to help as much as we can.
And storytellers in particular, we like our stories to keep going, right? And so we want to encourage other people to also be writing stories so that we can play. I miss questing.
Steffi was actually for the Alliance story arc, I believe.
It was Shirley was Princess.
Yeah.
I was Regent. Shirley was Princess.
That's why Steffi was the voice and Shirley was the head.
Yep. But Shirley was also playing Oscles as the leader of the rebellion, so that they had some legitimate government as the rebellious side.
Shirley didn't know a lot of the Alliance storyline things, but for all mechanical purposes, she was still the leader of the group that controlled the Empire. Even though she really didn't know anything about this side of it, she still had a figurehead within it, and she was on the other side fighting against us. I still have to make time.
A fun thing can happen when your PCs get super involved in a quest. it gets really hard to find NPCs. At the end of the yeah. See how Tim is facepalming so very hard? At the end of the Alliance quest, we had 4 NPCs for an 80-person quest.
All right.
Because everyone else wanted so very badly to kick these people out of their empire.
So, I just want to let everyone know, because this is by far probably my proudest quest series that I ran. This was the conclusion of the Alliance storyline. Stephanie and I had gotten together. We knew how we wanted things to end. How the parks had worked together was very defined at this point. And so I created a quest, which I was super, super proud of. Basically, it was a timed quest. And what happened was, each group had, I believe it was 20 minutes. I'm not 100%, I have it on my things there, but I'm pretty sure it was 20 minutes to complete their objective. During Frostbite, we had 4 quests that were run. You could participate. One was for Wolfenfang, one was for Felfrost, one was for Twilight Peak, and one was for those guys. And you could choose and be part of whichever one you wanted. But you could only PC in one of the quests. Because the concept was the Alliance was the Northern Empire was doing a strategic assault against the Alliance all in one time in 4 different locations. So your character could be wherever they wanted, but only one place. So I was able to use that as a great mechanic. You NPC in this one, and then you PC in the next one. Depending how each group did was going to depend on how they arrived at the final fight. Because at the end of 20 minutes, people were using their magic and teleporting everyone to the final fight. Depending on how everyone did was going to be depending on how the final fight works. So it was kind of one of those time-dependent quests, but also very guided at the same time.
You were also did have the ability to run over the clock, but then you arrived in the final fight late.
Yeah. So literally what happened was Wolfenfang was the first one there because they were the ones that had the brunt force, and they had to hold off. So literally, you had to, as a PC, if you took longer than the base time on the quest, sit there, and you could not join the fight until your group's timer lined up with Wolfenfang's. So, as each group finished, Lindegon, I believe, was the first ones to get there. As each one finished, there was a small hold called. That group was able to join back in. Fight continues. Now there's a little bit stronger force pushing its Alliance. When the quest started, the Alliance, even though it was only 4 of us, were just destroying Wolfenfang because we were super powerful because there was only 4 of us. So I made me really powerful monsters.
Yeah.
And then the next group joined, and then the next group joined. Each one joined in a different cinematic fashion until at the very end, the whole Empire was pushing against 4 of us, and eventually toppled the head of the Alliance. The chaotic, destroyed, mentally insane head of the Alliance at that point. Steffi mentioned the fact that sometimes things get too good that PCs don't join. The quest at the end boss fight that Steffi and I had originally designed for that weekend was designed with 15 NPCs in mind, which isn't that many NPCs for a Frostbite. We literally could get no one because everyone wanted to be a part. So it was me, it was Steffi, it was Dan, and I made my other Belfingling, Alex, also fight with me. Because he had also become the new voice of the Alliance, he agreed to do that, so it was literally the 4 of us rushing head in and just getting decimated time and time again. But that's a sign of a good quest that they wanted to do it that badly. And Jay made a great point. The quest line that was done is still being referenced, and the effects are still being felt 2 years after it, even though literally since then, Steffi and I have had 0 overall impact since then, just wrap up. But nothing has continued forward from it. It's just loose ends that people want tied up.
So Courtney brings up a good point. She wanted to know if we would put a cap on the PCs. No, in fact, we just overpowered ourselves as much as possible. I think we all had like 10 points of sectional invulnerability armor, and all of us had magic, and Tim was swinging siege, and ridiculous things like that. Because you don't want to tell it's that you don't ever want to say no. You want to say yes and or no but.
That power word. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and PCs know when they look down at an NPC group that's only 4 people and there's 60 people fighting against you,
They know.
you know that that person is going to be a terrifying. And one of the biggest thing that I always tell people, and now that V8 is out, it also makes a requirement before you initiate any combat, you have to announce all your abilities, any kind of hit effects you have. Prior to this, I would always tap my swords together and call siege before anybody got near me, so they knew, oh, if he taps me, I'm dead. As opposed to that same little dragon with the little red tap that goes, siege! Oh, you had siege. Oh, of course. Well, now I'm dead and I had no idea. You give them that warning, and it's also, again, that intimidation of, siege! Ah! I can do, if you touch me or my equip, I'll be back. So never try and say no, but what we did to make this fight fair to us was we, the other 2 would spawn inside groups as fairly powerful monsters, but not overpowered by any means, and they had to keep breaking down doors. So they're literally rushing in and like breaking down doors, and they had to hit this doorway 1,000 times. So
I was the doorway. It sucked.
She had a shield, and they just had to deal 1,000 points of damage to it. Was it 100,000 or like the last one was 1,000?
It was 1,000. There were. It was 500, 500, 500, 1,000.
Yeah.
It was awful. I hated you all.
And we had unlimited lives as we kept coming out. So basically, it was, you got to damage this door. You got to damage this door. The last thing I'll say also as that boss monster, which people still love, and I still try and do every time I'm playing a boss monster, I recommend this for any NPC, is a cinematic death. So somebody hits you, you're now dead. Drop your weapons. Do the finish him moment of, and then somebody who can come up behind you with a giant great hammer and go, and that's the killing blow that everyone will remember, as opposed to there's, oh, he's dead, cool, he's dead. No, there's that staggered look, and everyone will back away as soon as they see you get staggered, because they think you've got another life coming out shortly. And then you just keep staggering from one, they're like, finish him!
And Courtney, you're right, when you have less PCs than you initially planned for, so say you in your head you needed 10 PCs to finish this, then you nerf monsters. You leave your PCs alone, you don't play with their abilities, it's your monsters that get hit with the nerf bat. Very hard and sometimes very frequently. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and in fact you should, because otherwise PCs are going to just get frustrated all day long.
As a quick reference for how to kind of scale creatures overall, for every 5 additional PCs, you're looking at 2 points of armor. It's kind of always been my middle ground for a lot of people. For every 5 PC, that's a ratio, I should say. Every additional 5 PCs to your ratio, an extra 2 points of armor. At an additional 10, increase their weapon category by 1. Because you go defensive bonuses first, and then offensive bonuses. And then defenses again, and then offensive again. So that it's not just this powerhouse that, a glass cannon. It's better that if a person has to hit them 6 times, than to hit them 3 times, but anytime I swing around, I kill you all. It's better that I have to beat the hell out of you. So, for example, if I was scaling a regular 2-point monster, or a 2 armored monster up, first I give it 4 points of armor, then I give it armor breaking, shield crushing.
You can also do other fun things. Instead of increasing their weapon types, you can do things like make them exploding. V7 had a thing called Death Cloud. I, at one point, had a monster, he was a boss monster, who had Fight After Death and then Death Cloud. So upon dying, he fought after death for 10 seconds, and then yelled Death Cloud 10 times, and if you still happened to be within 10 feet of him, you were dead. So it doesn't necessarily have to be weapons, it can be other tricky things, but yeah, always...
Yeah, PCs work hard to be the level they're at, with the skill they're at, and with the spell lists or ability lists they have chosen. for me to come in and say, no, you're not as good as you thought you always are, without some kind of reason behind that, is just insulting. Oh, good, your quest is not good enough for me, so now you're going to hinder me. Don't hinder me. Make your quest harder. Unless it makes sense to give some kind of hindrance. So, for example, if you're going into the Void Realm, for example, and you know things are hard, laying out a curse field everywhere, that makes sense. It's still a way for healers and things like that to get around it, but that's a significant detriment to the PCs without feeling like a specific nerf to me. That's a terrain effect, which is another thing you can always add in. If things are hard, make them fight on a mountainside where they have to have one arm available for gripping at all times. Terrain effects, monsters. There's lots of different ways, as long as it fits thematically accordingly. A crocodile man should not get fingers of death. A wizard should not be swinging siege. Magic for the wizard, armor for the wizard, armor for the lizard man, more strength for the lizard man. As long as it all makes sense.
We had a question to build off in the middle there. Not sure whose speech bubble it was, but...
I think it's Rebecca.
No. Okay, go ahead.
So going off of like balancing things for PCs and NPCs, how would you balance essentially a war that's meant to be between two groups of PCs, just given different abilities?
Like they're all players who have chosen a side?
Yeah.
Let them go at it. It's a battle game.
At that point, it's a battle game.
It's called a choose your own side battle game. And they were very popular up here when there was things like the Flynn Wars and things like that in Wolfang, where literally, instead of balancing a game, you go, everyone who wants to support Flynn, to the right. Everyone who wants to fight against him, to the left. Anyone who doesn't want their character to be involved with this, enjoy the show. And sometimes those end up being a lawful stop. But sometimes, especially if there's a key character on the other side, on the villain side, the heroes, you tell them, if you shatter, if you die and they sever you on your last life in this game, if they curse you in the last life of this game, your character is removed for X amount of time. That's what's on the line in this game.
Okay.
But when it's a PC versus PC, or like Jay said, alternatively win conditions. So whoever wins this gets to keep the castle. Whoever wins this gets the artifact of power. There can definitely be like something on the line, but when it's PC versus PC, you have done your job. That they are involved enough in this already. You just watch the mayhem.
All right.
Just make sure there's reefs to keep everything kind of in control.
I guess building off this, because I'm trying to help. Essentially, I'm asking these questions to help build up the quest I talked about earlier. What about in a sort of... What about if this war requires recruiting? Like, each side has to recruit their members. Do you, again, just let that go as it is, or do you try and keep a balance so that each side has an equal number? Or do you let both sides kind of just go at it?
If you're doing a two-sided faction quest, it has to be an equal opportunity style. So either A, they're both in the same quest at the same time, vying for the same faction's allegiance, so they get either only one of them get it, or you're running separate quests for each faction to gain the advantage of gaining a new NPC. Those are pretty much your two kind of major options there. If you're doing a PvP war, which is good, just make sure it is everyone gets equal opportunity. I'm going to let Courtney throw something in here, and then just because we've been talking for 2.5 hours, and this is being recorded, and we do want other people to watch this afterwards, we're probably going to break this video up into multiple segments for the online posting. We're going to kind of do a wrap-up after Courtney's last little words here, and then we will... Stephanie and I will probably stay on and continue chatting for a little while, but we're going to officially call the whole thing a close early. So, go ahead, Courtney.
So I think it's important to understand where a quest is and RP and battle games come into play. So you can still have RP and battle games in like battle game scenarios that involve RP or are involved in the RP or quest line, especially for long story arcs. For instance, a little while ago, Twilight Peak started a war with Whitestone Valley, I do believe, and that there was a lot of RP, and some Twilight Peakers actually went to Whitestone Valley, and they did a battle game wherein Twilight Peak and Whitestone Valley fought against each other, and I think it is important to understand, like, differentiate between quests and RP and battle games, which are also part of Amtgard. So, like, quests are. Yeah, that's...
Nope. Fantastically well said. Each has their own purpose. A battle game is the end result of the quest, for example, but make sure that you don't misconstrue the two. Do not call a choose-your-own-side battle game a quest, because when people come out with their questing gear and the role-play list and things like that, they are at a significant disadvantage if it's just a flat-out fight. So they should kind of know either A, it's an adventure, you have no idea what's coming, or B, it's a fight, prepare yourself.
Yeah. Well then, I guess this really wouldn't be called as much of a quest as it is a storyline, but either way.
And like I said, they can build from one to another. A successful victory in a battle game can result in a quest for the losing side to try and regain favor.
So you can actually use quests to motivate or push RP, but RP can stand on its own. Like, you don't need to have a quest for RP. So there's actually, in some events, you can have open RP, where it's just people RPing. If PvP happens, cool. But, you know, it's just...
Yeah. As I said, I'm the co-GM for this. If any of you know him, Kepi. Kepi is the guy running this.
Awesome. Oh, sorry, my mic was... Oh, there you go. Now I'm not muted. That's awesome. And like I said, there's no real wrong way to do anything. If your park is digging it, that's your job as a storyteller.
Yeah.
Kind of in wrapping up and closing everything down, we go through all this to give people the ideas and the building blocks they need to kind of bring what they're doing to that next level. That has always been my goal, to get our quests more than just us running around in the woods all wearing the same stuff, to get more garb out there, to get more personas out there, more interesting stories. Everyone has their own way of doing it, and none of them are wrong, as long as people are enjoying themselves. That's the point of Amtgard. That's the point of roleplay. That's the point of questing. You have anything, Steffi?
I think that pretty much sums it up. We do what we do to make the game better for the people around us too, right? So however you choose to make quests happen is good. And Tim and I will stay on for anyone who wants any questions, but I think at this point we should wrap up the official thing.
Smiths have merit. Just remember that.
Smiths have merit.
I'd like to thank Amber and the Amtgard Arts Academy for kind of putting this whole thing on, introducing me to new technology that confuses me and scares me. So thank you very much, Amber, for putting this all together for everybody, and I look forward to seeing what you all put out there afterwards. If you guys have questions, want help, you've got now, throughout this entire video, we've had about 12 people come through watching this now. We found out that these calls have a max of 10 people, and we apparently hit that max, so people couldn't even get into the call. So
things we are learning about Google Hangouts together.
Exactly. So you all now know each other. You've all heard each other's questions. We are resources for everybody. So any storyteller, any quest writer, any QM, always call these people.
Okay, and stop the broadcast.
All right.